Halliburton ahead of the field. Neesmith drops the hammer.
Welcome back to the All Things Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Lopez, as always, and I just want to say this right off the bat. The in-season tournament games, the elimination ones, they've all been on point. I was kind of skeptical about the in-season tournament, but honestly, this has been a major hit. I think the NBA has something. There could be some tweaks, obviously, but that's not going to be on this episode. This one's actually going to be a quick kind of just... I have some notes here in my hands, and I just want to talk about the Celtics-Pacers game. Not so much from the Pacers perspective, but more so from the Celtics side of things. But I do want to say the in-season tournament, the elimination games from last night, and obviously the ones that are going to follow, it's as close to a playoff atmosphere as you're going to get in a regular season. So they do a really good job of simulating that playoff environment. I think this is really good for young teams, especially a team like the Pacers, a team that doesn't get nationally televised games, doesn't get a lot of media hype. Obviously, now that's kind of turning the corner. A lot of people are starting to pay attention to the Pacers, so and rightfully so. The team is super exciting. They're insanely fun to watch. It's pure team basketball on the offensive side, of course. And I just want to say, I think Halliburton's become one of the most loved players in the league, and he deserves all that love for sure. It was an amazing game between the Pacers and the Celtics. Super entertaining. It was back and forth. It was obviously just a three-point palooza. Everybody knows these two teams were going to shoot a bunch of threes. And before diving into the advanced analytics and some of the traditional stats that I'm going to talk about pretty quickly, I do want to mention, obviously, for anyone that didn't watch the game, Kristaps didn't play for the Celtics, so that's a big loss for Boston. Obviously, he completely makes a massive difference for the Celtics. So him being out is obviously a big knock, but I was still confident that the Celtics could walk away with a win. I actually picked them to win the game last night. Obviously, they didn't. I'm 0 for 2 so far in the picks. I did a prediction episode on the last video. So far, I'm 0 for 2, so hopefully we get some dubs tonight. But I'm going to be moving on to these advanced numbers and some traditional numbers that I think you guys should definitely at least hear. I'm going to display them on the screen for you guys as well. But Pacers defensive rating in this game, okay, 108.7. Okay, for context, that's a number that puts them third overall in the league. Obviously, it's just one game, but just watching this team lock in, show effort like that, because that's the biggest knock on the Pacers is the defensive side of the ball. These guys, they're just damn near dead last in defensive rating, but last night was a complete shift. These guys were getting back on defense. The effort was awesome. I mean, you couldn't complain about anything with those Indiana Pacers. They took care of the ball insanely well. But I do want to talk about the defensive rating for the Celtics really quick, 119.6. And obviously, when you play the Pacers, it's going to be hard to defend a team like that. But when you're a team like the Celtics, even without Kristaps Porzingis, I would still expect a better effort defensively. The defensive rating for the Celtics at 119 is going to put you exactly where the Pacers are for the season. So that should obviously tell you how bad the defense was in general. But the Pacers are the Pacers, and they're going to make a lot of teams look bad on that side because they're just not going to stop scoring on you. They're very hard to contain. They play extremely fast. They're so efficient. They move the ball. Everyone gets touches. And that's something that I'm going to talk about on the advanced stat sheet. So I love that the box score has the advanced tab because anyone can actually go look at that. And here are some things that I really took notice of. So usage rate that you can actually track on the box score. Jason Tatum, 32.6. Jaylen Brown, 33.8. Derek White, 24.7. Al Horford, 6.4. Drew Holiday, 11.2. So you start to see like a massive drop off right after you get past Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And then you go look at the Pacers on the usage rate. Buddy Hield, 18.2. Obi Toppin, 14.8. Miles Turner, 20.8. Bruce Brown, 18.8. And Halliburton, who everyone loves, of course, 19.6. So just one Pacer is over 20 in usage rate. Meanwhile, here the Celtics, they have two guys, well over, just over 30 in usage rate. And that alone should tell the story between these two teams offensively. The Celtics are like 26th or so in assists per game. That's a massive drop off from where they were last season, which I'll put here on the screen. It's just such a strange thing to see because the Celtics have so much talent, and to see them just constantly go for isolation plays and difficult shots over and over again, it's just so hard to watch. Has this team not learned their lesson from the playoff series against the Heat? It doesn't look like they have. They almost lost to the Sixers the series before. They gave up a couple of games to the Hawks in the first round. And it's just like that constant problem that I always talk about with these Celtics. The shot chucking, the difficulty of the shots that they're taking, whether it's the mid-range or threes, and then the isolation possessions. It's just, it's just not the way you want to play to win games. And granted, that's going to win you games in the regular season. You're going to win a lot of games like that in the regular season. But when the playoffs come around, you become so much easier to defend when you're running these isolation plays. It's obnoxious to me. I honestly, I don't like watching isolation basketball, especially when you're watching a team as talented as the Celtics. They run probably the best 5-out offense outside of the Pacers right now. Now I'm going to get to the traditional stuff real quick before I get into anything else. So Celtics, 17 turnovers to the Pacers 6. Okay. 3-point percentage for the Celtics, 29.3, 47.5 for the Pacers, which is hyper elite. Free throw line, right? Celtics got to the line 12 times last night. Meanwhile, the Pacers got 21 free throws, 81% for the Pacers, 66.7% for the Celtics. So, not getting to the line is another thing, that I kind of harped on them for in this game. And I got to give credit to a couple of Celtics guys here. Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett. Do you guys know how hard it is for a guy like Luke Cornett at his size, the slow speed, for him to be as good as he was in this game? 4 blocks, just in a game against the Pacers, who are just insanely fast. It's an up and down game. They are so unapologetic about the shots they take. And for better or worse, these guys are putting up a ton of shots up, but they're just playing the most efficient basketball on the offensive side. So for Luke Cornett to look good against a team like that is very impressive to me. So shout out to Luke Cornett. Obviously, Sam Hauser, I'm surprised he didn't play more in this game. Drew Holiday was a no-show in this game. So, hate to see that. I really like Drew Holiday, but he definitely didn't show up for that one. But, back to the isolation stuff with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Just like, these guys are so elite at one-on-one. They're so comfortable playing one-on-one that I can just tell they're so tempted with all the space they have because of that 5-out offense. All the space they have. Of course, it's tempting to want to go one-on-one. But, man, it's just so hard to watch when I'm looking at Jason Tatum just one-on-one late in that fourth quarter against Aaron Nesmith. Nesmith fouls him. Obviously, Tatum goes to the line. I think he splits his free throws there. But it's like such a tough shot, such a tough thing to opt for so late in the game. And then later on after that, I think it was like a minute left to go around that time, Tatum takes another tough long two over Aaron Nesmith. And that's just kind of like the panic game plan for these Celtics. Like they go back to that one-on-one game. They'll feed Brown, they'll feed Tatum, and everyone else is just standing around waiting for something to happen. So that really makes the Celtics so much easier to guard than they should be because of the spacing they have. They should be just driving more, and I'm not saying, just score twos. That's obviously not going to be effective against all these teams that are shooting threes. But what I'm saying is, if the Celtics are going to just avoid taking advantage of that space they have, they're not going to get the most out of who they have on their roster. When they get downhill to the lane, you're either going to help on those drives and give up open Celtics threes, or you're going to probably foul them because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are very good at getting to the rim. And that's going to be a problem because now you're sending them to the free throw line. These are two guys that can knock down free throws. So, you're kind of picking your poison. If you're going to cut off the twos, you're going to give up threes. but the Celtics need to have more ball movement. There needs to be more motion. There needs to be more off-ball cutting. I don't like watching the way these Celtics generate such difficult baskets. They're a very elite offense, of course. They're also an elite defense. But when I look at these stagnant possessions from Jaylen Brown, from Jason Tatum, it's just hard to watch. And that's really going to be their demise if that's the way they're planning on playing throughout their playoff run, because it looks like that's going to be how they lose. This exact game is just a nice little example of why they were a mess in the playoffs last season. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that because I thought it was very interesting to kind of go through the advanced stats between the Pacers, between the Celtics, go through some traditional things, and give a couple of points just on what I see from these Celtics. I feel like I've talked about a lot about the Celtics. I just want to give a shout out to these Pacers. These Pacers are going to show us how far a historic offense can take you without having top 10 or even middle of the pack defense, right? If this team somehow manages to consistently put together middle of the pack level defense, the Pacers are going to be a serious problem in the Eastern Conference. Luckily for the rest of the league, this team is not a good defensive team. They haven't been so far. Maybe they turn the corner, maybe, who knows? But, this team is middle of the pack defense away from being a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching this quick video. This is the All Things Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Vic Lopez, as always, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.